in the lawless expanse where civilization bled into chaos, where star systems bowed to criminal empires and entire species vanished without trace, the impossible was about to unfold. For millennia, the galaxy's apex predators had hunted alone. Humans, those terrifying deathworlders whose very existence defied cosmic probability. Vel'nari, gravity dancers who bent reality itself to their ethereal will. Each species legendary in their own right, each considered untouchable by lesser civilizations. But tonight, legends would collide, and the universe would never be the same. Aaron cut through Vexford Station's industrial maze like a wraith given lethal purpose. Every augmented fiber of his being calibrated for the hunt that had made him infamous across 17 star systems. The Void Stalker moved with predatory grace that spoke of humanity's most terrifying truth. They had clawed their way to the top of the galactic food chain, and they intended to stay there. Above him, something that should have been impossible was rewriting the laws of physics. Zevka danced through three-dimensional space as if gravity were merely a suggestion, her form flowing between cargo containers and support struts, with movements that made quantum mechanics look primitive. The Vel'nari gravity dancer transformed empty air into her personal weapon, each gesture sending ripples through spacetime that human science couldn't even properly observe, let alone comprehend. 2 apex species, 2 perfect killing machines. One partnership that would shatter every assumption about what was possible when the galaxy's deadliest predators stopped hunting each other. The Blackspire Syndicate had prepared for human infiltration. They had prepared for Vel'nari subtlety. They had not prepared for the terrifying moment when humanity's ruthless adaptability merged with alien mastery over the fundamental forces of existence. As Zevka's fingers wove patterns that turned local gravity into chaos, criminal enforcers found their coordinated ambush becoming a physics-defying nightmare. This was the moment the criminal underworld would learn what happened when the galaxy's most dangerous species decided to hunt together. The plasma beam that seared past Aaron's shoulder announced that the lesson had begun. Fire erupted across Vexford's docking bay as Kythera enforcers emerged from concealment, their bioluminescent tracers painting deadly constellations against the station's industrial twilight. What should have been a coordinated ambush instantly transformed into something far more dangerous, a demonstration of why apex predators ruled the cosmic food chain. Zevka moved through zero gravity like water flowing uphill. Her form twisted between support struts and hanging cables, each motion precisely calculated to bend spatial fields around her small frame. The alien gravity dancer had been his reluctant partner for exactly 47 minutes, and Aaron was already recalibrating every assumption he'd held about interspecies cooperation. She gestured toward the leftmost enforcer, her graceful hand weaving complex patterns. Aaron watched the Kythera suddenly stagger sideways as local physics shifted 15 degrees, sending the alien stumbling into his companion's line of fire. Professional admiration flickered through Aaron's combat analysis. Human void stalkers learned to move unseen through the darkest corners of space, but Zevka made the very environment her weapon. The briefing had been simple. Ghost through the Shadowmere complex, steal the data core containing shipping manifests for the Blackspire Syndicate, and disappear before anyone noticed they'd been there. 47 minutes ago, Aaron had expected to work alone. The galaxy's criminal cartels had learned to fear human stealth operatives, but they'd also learned to prepare for them. They hadn't prepared for this. Zevka dropped silently behind the second enforcer, her spatial manipulation allowing for a controlled fall that bypassed every motion sensor. Her curved blade found the gap between armor plates with surgical precision. The Kythera crumpled, breath escaping in a final wheeze. Aaron used the distraction to sprint across open ground, his void suit's adaptive camouflage shifting to match the station's industrial textures. The remaining enforcers tracked toward Zevka's position, giving him the angle he needed. 2 quick strikes disabled their weapons. A third ended their threat permanently. Silence reclaimed the docking bay. Aaron's breathing regulated as combat stimulants faded from his system. Beside him, Zevka landed with impossible grace, her elongated limbs folding in ways that reminded him why humans called her species the dancers. "We make an effective team," she said, her voice carrying the melodic undertones that marked her as one of the Vel'nari. The translator embedded in Aaron's skull rendered her words in crisp English, but couldn't quite capture the harmonic complexity that made her species' communication as much music as language. Aaron checked his chronometer. 49 minutes until the next patrol cycle. The timeline was manageable, assuming they encountered no more surprises. "I don't work with partners," he said, already moving toward the maintenance access that would lead them deeper into Shadowmere. His voice carried the flat pragmatism that had kept him alive through 17 solo operations in the galaxy's most dangerous territories. Zevka matched his pace effortlessly, her steps impossibly silent despite the metallic grating beneath their feet. "You are reconsidering this position." It wasn't a question. Aaron paused at the access panel, his superior vision analyzing the security grid. Military-grade encryption, biometric locks, and at least 3 layers of redundant alarms. The Blackspire Syndicate wasn't taking chances with their shipping data. "You read human psychology that well?" he asked, beginning the delicate process of bypassing the first security layer. "I read gravitational signatures," Zevka replied. "Your stress patterns shifted when you observed my combat effectiveness." Curiosity replaced skepticism. Professional interest replaced reluctance. Aaron's hands continued their precise work on the control systems, but his attention sharpened on his companion. The galaxy's intelligence networks had extensive files on Vel'nari physiology and culture, but they'd clearly missed something crucial about their perception capabilities. "You can sense emotional states through gravitational fields. All matter creates spatial distortions. Living beings create complex patterns. Humans create particularly distinctive signatures." She tilted her head in what might have been amusement. "Your species broadcasts emotional states quite loudly once one learns the language." The access panel chimed softly as the final security layer disengaged. Aaron stepped back, gesturing for Zevka to proceed. "After you." She moved through the narrow maintenance tunnel with fluid precision, her body somehow managing the confined space without any of the awkward maneuvering Aaron required. He followed, grateful for his void suit's flexibility, but acutely aware of how much noise his passage generated compared to her silent progress. The tunnel opened into a service corridor deep within Shadowmere's industrial levels. Emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red shadows, while the distant hum of atmospheric processors created a constant background rhythm. According to the intelligence briefing, the data core lay 3 levels up in the station's command center. According to intelligence, this should have been a solo extraction against standard criminal security. Intelligence had been incomplete. Aaron activated his suit's passive sensors, mapping their surroundings in 3 dimensions. The corridor stretched in both directions, lined with maintenance alcoves and service hatches. Standard layout for a converted mining station, but something felt wrong about the acoustic patterns. "We're not alone," he said quietly. Zevka had already frozen in place, her head tilted in concentration. 12 individuals, she whispered, moving in coordinated patterns 3 levels above. Military precision, not criminal security. Aaron's heightened vision shifted through multiple spectrums, analyzing heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions bleeding through the station's hull. His combat computer began assembling threat assessments based on movement patterns and equipment signatures. Kithara shock troops, he said after several seconds of analysis. Full combat gear, advanced scanning equipment. They're not here for routine security. They are hunting, Zevka agreed. The question becomes, are they hunting us specifically or something else of value within this facility? Aaron considered the implications. Their intelligence had indicated minimal security around the shipping data. But the presence of Kithara military units suggested the Blackspire Syndicate was protecting something far more valuable than cargo manifests, or someone had leaked their mission parameters. Change of plans, Aaron said, beginning to retrace their path toward an alternate route. We extract the data and investigate what else is worth this level of protection. Zevka's spatial senses suddenly flared, her posture shifting into combat readiness. The pattern signature she projected through their neural connection made Aaron's battle instincts scream warnings. "Contact above," she said. "They have found our entry point." Aaron's heads-up display lit up with proximity alerts as his suit's sensors detected armed movement in the maintenance systems they'd just abandoned. Boot steps, weapons signatures, and the distinctive energy patterns of Kithara scanning equipment painted a clear picture. Their infiltration had been detected. Multiple escape routes evaporated as enemy forces moved to seal potential exits. Aaron's mind shifted into the calculated calm that had kept him alive through impossible odds. Criminal cartels throughout the galaxy had learned to fear human persistence and adaptability, but they'd never faced a human working alongside a gravity dancer. Time to teach them why that was a mistake. "We go up," he said, indicating a service shaft that would take them toward the command levels through an unexpected vector. "Fast and quiet until we reach the data core, then we adapt to circumstances." Zevka nodded, her bright eyes reflecting strategic considerations that matched his own. "Your species has a saying about the best-laid plans, yes. They never survive contact with reality," Aaron confirmed, beginning the climb. "But humans excel at improvisation." Behind them, the sound of armored boots entering the maintenance tunnel served as punctuation to his words. The hunt had begun in earnest, but the hunters had just made a critical error. They'd assumed they were tracking two separate infiltrators. They were about to discover they were facing a single, perfectly coordinated predator with twice as many lethal capabilities as either species possessed alone. Aaron's superior hearing detected the subtle shift in Zevka's breathing that indicated heightened focus. Her physics manipulation was already beginning to bend the local environment, creating subtle distortions that would confuse scanning equipment and motion sensors. For the first time since accepting this contract, Aaron found himself looking forward to the challenge ahead. The command level's atmosphere hummed with tension thick enough to taste through filtration systems. Aaron pressed himself against the bulkhead beside an access hatch, watching the security station through his augmented vision, while Zevka's spatial senses painted a strategic picture that no human technology could match. 23 guards on this level, she whispered, her mental signature projecting coordinates with mathematical precision. 16 Kithara, 7 of another species I do not recognize, all carrying military-grade equipment. Aaron's battle computer analyzed the data, cross-referencing known alien physiological parameters with movement patterns. The unknown species registered as bipedal, approximately human-sized, but with energy signatures that suggested cybernetic enhancement. Mercenaries, he concluded, corporate-grade augmentations, probably hired specifically for anti-human operations. The implications sent cold calculation through his modified nervous system. Someone had known humans would be involved in this operation. The level of preparation suggested intelligence leaks that went far deeper than simple criminal security. This was a trap, Zevka's field perception shifted, her attention focusing on something beyond Aaron's sensor range. "The data core chamber," she said, "3 levels above our current position. But there is something else." Aaron waited for elaboration. "The gravitational patterns around the core chamber are wrong. As if something massive occupies that space, but my senses cannot define its boundaries or composition." Aaron's enhanced vision couldn't penetrate that far through the station's hull, but his strategic instincts began assembling possibilities. Weapons platforms, defensive systems, or something else entirely that the Blackspire Syndicate considered worth protecting with military-grade security. "Only one way to find out," he said, beginning to move along the corridor with practiced stealth. His void suit's adaptive camouflage shifted to match the industrial textures around them, rendering him nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Zevka moved beside him like a whisper of displaced air, her spatial manipulation allowing her to literally reduce her effective mass, while maintaining perfect balance and control. Together, they passed within 3 meters of a patrol without triggering any alarms. The service lift that would take them to the core chamber lay ahead, its access panel displaying the amber standby status that indicated normal operations. Too normal for a facility that should be on high alert after detecting intruders. Aaron paused, his heightened senses analyzing electromagnetic signatures around the lift mechanism. The patterns were wrong, additional circuitry that didn't match standard transportation systems. "Surveillance hub," he identified. "They're monitoring every lift car, probably with full spectrum scanning and biometric analysis." Zevka's head tilted as she considered alternatives. The spatial distortions around this facility create interesting possibilities for vertical movement. "If you trust my capabilities." Aaron looked up at the lift shaft's ceiling, estimating the distance to their target level. 40 meters of vertical travel through a confined space with potential hostiles above and below them. "How much do you weigh?" he asked. "Currently, 47 kilograms, but I can adjust this parameter as needed." Aaron's augmented physiology was rated for carrying twice his body weight in Earth-normal gravity. In the reduced gravity of a space station, supporting Zevka while she manipulated local physics would be challenging but manageable. "Lead the way," he said. Zevka began the intricate field work that would allow them to ascend the lift shaft without triggering sensors or creating noise. Aaron felt the strange sensation of his effective weight shifting as she bent the local spacetime around their position, creating a bubble of altered physics that made the impossible feel routine. They rose through the shaft with dreamlike fluidity, Aaron's strength amplified by dimensional manipulation, while Zevka's precise control kept them clear of sensor arrays and mechanical obstacles. The experience required trust that went beyond anything Aaron had developed with human partners, complete faith in abilities that defied his species' understanding of physics. 3 levels up, they paused at the access point that would lead them into the core chamber's security perimeter. Aaron's superior hearing detected the soft conversations of guards, their positions and patrol patterns becoming clear through careful analysis. Zevka's field senses provided strategic intelligence that complemented his own abilities perfectly. 8 guards in the immediate area, she reported. 4 with direct line of sight to the core chamber entrance. 2 monitoring stations with scanning equipment. Patrol cycle indicates 17 minutes until the next shift change. Aaron's combat computer processed the information, developing approach strategies that would minimize exposure and maximize their chances of reaching the objective undetected. The core chamber lay beyond 2 security checkpoints and at least 6 separate sensor arrays. Standard infiltration protocols suggested a patient approach, waiting for optimal conditions and minimizing risk. But the presence of military-grade security meant their window of opportunity was already closing. Soon, the station's defenders would expand their search parameters and make stealth extraction impossible. Time to demonstrate why criminals across the galaxy had learned to fear human adaptability. We go through them, Aaron decided. Fast, coordinated, minimal noise. You handle spatial confusion, I'll manage the physical threats. Zevka's agreement came through their neural link as a complex harmonic that somehow conveyed both confidence and anticipation. Your species' direct approach has certain advantages in situations like this. Aaron smiled grimly as he prepared to breach the security perimeter. Sometimes the best stealth was perfect violence applied with surgical precision. The first guard never saw them coming. Aaron's superior reflexes carried him across 15 meters of open ground in the time it took the alien to register movement in his peripheral vision. Neural disruption dropped the guard instantly. Zevka's physics manipulation turned the second guard's attempt to raise an alarm into an embarrassing tumble as local gravity shifted sideways, sending him sprawling into his companion. Aaron reached them before they could recover, ending their threat with swift efficiency. The monitoring stations went dark as Zevka's abilities interfered with their delicate sensor arrays, creating spatial distortions that confused every scanning protocol. In the space of 30 seconds, 8 guards and multiple security systems had been neutralized without triggering any alarms. The core chamber entrance lay ahead, sealed behind a vault door that would have challenged a military demolition team. Aaron's heightened vision analyzed the locking mechanisms, while Zevka's field senses probed the chamber beyond. What she found changed everything. "Aaron," she said, her mental signature carrying confusion and concern. "The spatial patterns inside this chamber, they are not consistent with data storage." Aaron looked up from the vault's security systems. "What are they consistent with?" A pause that stretched several heartbeats. "Life support systems, for something very large, very complex, and very much alive." The vault door's final security layer disengaged with a whisper of escaping atmosphere, revealing darkness that Aaron's superior vision immediately penetrated. The core chamber stretched beyond the entrance like a cavern, its walls lined with monitoring equipment and life support systems that hummed with constant activity. But the chamber's contents made Aaron reassess every assumption about their mission. The data core they'd come to steal occupied a small alcove near the entrance, a standard information storage device that could fit in Aaron's palm. Important, certainly, but hardly worth the military-grade security surrounding this facility. The real prize dominated the chamber's center. A Vel'nari female floated in a crystalline suspension tank, her elongated form surrounded by monitoring cables and life support apparatus. Even unconscious, her body generated the subtle dimensional distortions that marked her species. But these patterns felt wrong, amplified, and chaotic, as if her natural abilities were being artificially enhanced. Zevka's shocked recognition flooded their neural connection. "That is Nexara," she said, her mental signature carrying harmonics of disbelief and growing rage. She was part of the diplomatic mission that disappeared 3 solar cycles ago. Aaron's augmented vision analyzed the equipment surrounding the suspension tank. Neural interfaces, field generators, and data extraction systems that painted a clear picture of what the Blackspire Syndicate had been doing. "They're using her as a living physics computer," he said, his voice flat with the kind of controlled anger that made humans dangerous. "Analyzing her neural patterns to reverse engineer Vel'nari gravity manipulation technology." The implications struck him like a physical blow. If criminals could artificially replicate gravity dancing abilities, they'd possess advantages that would destabilize the entire galactic balance of power. No security system could defend against opponents who could manipulate gravity at will. No military force could operate effectively when the enemy controlled the fundamental forces of physics. Zevka moved toward the suspension tank with controlled urgency, her spatial senses analyzing the life support systems. She is alive, but the neural interface damage will be extensive. We must extract her immediately. Aaron's battle instincts screamed warnings as his superior hearing detected movement in the corridors beyond the chamber. Their time was running out. An extraction of an unconscious prisoner would complicate every aspect of their escape. But the look in Zevka's bright eyes contained something Aaron recognized from his own reflection after watching human prisoners in alien hands. Some rescues transcended strategic calculation. "Get her out of that tank," he said, beginning to download data from the storage core while monitoring their escape routes. "I'll handle the technical side and rear guard action." Zevka's physics manipulation interfaced with the suspension tank systems in ways that bypassed every security protocol. The tank began draining, while life support systems shifted to emergency support mode. Meanwhile, Aaron's modified neural interface processed the data core's contents at superhuman speed. What he found made their mission parameters suddenly clear. The shipping manifests were real, but they documented something far more sinister than smuggled goods. Dozens of diplomatic missions, scientific expeditions, and cultural exchanges had been intercepted by the Blackspire Syndicate over the past year. The missing individuals weren't casualties of piracy. They were test subjects for biological weapons research. Humans, Vel'nari, Kithara, and representatives from 12 other species were being held in facilities across the criminal organization's territory. Each species' unique abilities were being analyzed, reverse-engineered, and weaponized for sale to the highest bidders. Aaron's augmented combat stimulants flooded his system as the full scope of the conspiracy became clear. This wasn't criminal opportunism. It was systematic biological warfare development that threatened every civilized species in the galaxy. The sound of approaching boots echoed from multiple corridors. Their presence had finally been detected. "We have company," Aaron said, sealing the data core in his suit's secured storage, while Zevka finished extracting Nexara from the suspension system. "Multiple contacts, all vectors. They know we're here." Zevka cradled her unconscious compatriot with impossible gentleness, while her dimensional abilities began preparing for combat operations. Nexara's body was already showing signs of responsiveness as life support systems restored normal neural function. "How many?" Zevka asked. Aaron's heightened senses painted a strategic picture that challenged even his augmented capabilities. At least 30 hostiles converging on their position from 6 different approach vectors. Heavy weapons, military coordination, and scanning equipment that would make stealth extraction impossible. "Too many for standard infiltration protocols," he admitted. "We need a different approach." Zevka's bright eyes met his with understanding that transcended species barriers. "What do you suggest?" Aaron checked his equipment loadout and available resources. His void suit contained enough combat supplies for extended operations, but not against overwhelming numbers in confined spaces. Standard human strategy emphasized mobility and surprise, but neither option remained viable. Then, he remembered something from the intelligence briefing about Shadowmere's construction. The facility had been built from a converted mining station, which meant its primary structure included industrial systems designed for processing asteroidal materials. "Industrial-scale physics manipulation systems," he said, indicating the chamber's monitoring equipment. "If you can interface with the station's gravitational control grid." Zevka's understanding blazed through their neural link. "The mining equipment includes focusing arrays designed for moving asteroid-sized masses," she said. "If I can access those systems," she could turn the entire station into a weapon. Aaron's superior reflexes were already moving toward the chamber's secondary control systems. "Do it," he said. "I'll buy you time and handle the technical interface." The first enemy forces breached the chamber's outer perimeter as Aaron's combat training engaged fully. Heightened reflexes, accelerated time perception, and battle analysis systems transformed him into something that moved like death given purpose. The first 3 attackers collapsed before they could properly acquire targets. The next wave found themselves fighting an opponent who seemed to predict their movements while striking from impossible angles. Behind him, Zevka's dimensional abilities interfaced with Shadowmere's industrial systems in ways their designers never anticipated. Focusing arrays meant for moving ore began responding to organic control, their massive power systems coming online with the deep harmonic resonance that marked large-scale physics manipulation. Aaron felt the station's artificial gravity fluctuate as Zevka took control of forces measured in planetary masses. The approaching enemy forces suddenly found themselves fighting in constantly shifting dimensional fields. Weapons fire curved in impossible directions. Soldiers stumbled as up and down became fluid concepts. Equipment malfunctioned as its fundamental assumptions about physics no longer applied. In the space of minutes, Zevka had turned every advantage the enemy possessed into a liability. "Extraction route is clear," Aaron announced, gathering Nexara while Zevka maintained her interface with the station's physics systems. "The docking bay where we entered is now accessible through controlled gravitational transit." Zevka nodded, her concentration never wavering from the massive forces under her command. "Go," she said. "I will maintain control until you reach the extraction point." Aaron looked at her with the recognition that came only in moments of perfect partnership. "Together," he said, the escape from Shadowmere became something approaching poetry written in applied physics. Zevka's control over the station's dimensional systems allowed them to move through corridors and shafts, as if the facility had been designed specifically for their passage. Enemy forces found themselves unable to maintain formation or aim effectively, as the fundamental nature of their environment shifted moment by moment. Nexara regained consciousness during their transit, her own spatial abilities instinctively harmonizing with Zevka's manipulation of the station's systems. Even weakened by captivity, her presence amplified their capabilities in ways that made their escape feel inevitable rather than desperate. They reached the docking bay as station alarms finally began broadcasting general evacuation orders. The Blackspire Syndicate's facility was tearing itself apart under dimensional stresses its structure had never been designed to handle. Aaron's extraction ship waited where he'd left it, its stealth systems having prevented detection during their infiltration. As they boarded, he turned for one last look at Shadowmere. The station was already beginning to break apart, its mining equipment overloading under physics forces that would reduce the entire facility to metallic debris within hours. Any evidence of the biological weapons research would be destroyed along with the criminals who'd conducted it. But the data core contained information that would lead them to the other facilities, to the other prisoners. As their ship accelerated away from the dying station, Aaron found himself looking forward to the next phase of their alliance. Criminal cartels throughout the galaxy had learned to fear human persistence and Vel'nari precision separately. They were about to discover what happened when those capabilities worked in perfect coordination. Nexara's voice joined their neural link, harmonizing with Zevka's to create communication music that somehow included Aaron despite his different neural architecture. "The other facilities," she said, "I have their locations, and I know their weaknesses." Aaron smiled as his ship's navigation systems began calculating jump coordinates for their next target. The hunt was just beginning. 3 cycles later, the cantina on Crimson Reach hummed with the kind of nervous energy that preceded major operations. Abel and Alban, the human operatives Aaron had recruited over the past year, reviewed strategic displays, while Kalesh, their Kithara ally, monitored communication intercepts from the latest Blackspire facility. 37 successful raids had crippled the biological weapons network, but the organization's leadership remained frustratingly elusive. Each rescue operation revealed new layers of conspiracy that stretched across multiple star systems and involved corruption at the highest levels of galactic government. Aaron studied the holographic display showing their next target, a research facility hidden within an asteroid mining operation in the Grimhello sector. Intelligence suggested it held prisoners from at least 8 species, including several human diplomatic personnel who disappeared during trade negotiations. Across the strategic table, Zevka's spatial senses analyzed structural data, while Nexara coordinated with resistant cells throughout the outer territories. Their alliance had evolved into something that transcended species boundaries, a coordination of capabilities that made impossible missions feel routine. The facility's defenses include dimensional dampening fields, Zevka reported, but the asteroid's internal structure creates opportunities for indirect approach vectors. Aaron's superior vision traced possible infiltration routes through the holographic display. The mission would require all their combined capabilities: human adaptability, Vel'nari spatial manipulation, and Kithara technological expertise working in perfect synchronization. Timeline, he asked. Nexara's response carried harmonics of grim determination. The next prisoner transfer occurs in 6 cycles. If we fail to intercept it, 12 scientists will disappear into facilities we have not yet located. Aaron nodded, his modified neural systems already assembling operational parameters. The stakes had escalated far beyond simple criminal activity. The biological weapons research threatened the foundation of galactic civilization, and traditional law enforcement agencies lacked the capabilities to address threats that operated beyond conventional physics. But humans had never been conventional, and their alliance with the Vel'nari had created something unprecedented in galactic history. A coordination that transformed the unique strengths of both species into capabilities that neither could achieve alone. Final equipment check in 2 hours, Aaron announced. We launch for Grimhello at maximum stealth velocity. As his team began mission preparations, Aaron allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Criminal organizations throughout the galaxy had learned to fear human persistence working alongside alien precision. But they'd never quite understood what made that alliance so devastatingly effective. It wasn't just the combination of abilities. It was the trust that allowed 2 very different species to become something greater than the sum of their parts. The hunt continued, and somewhere in the dark between stars, predators worked together to ensure that prey could find no place to hide.